In today's staff meeting, I am going to be going over SEL, social emotional learning. And I'm going to be talking about a few different things like how does it help our students? Um, what exactly is SEL? What are some tips that I can take into my classroom? How can I implement it? And by the time we leave today, you'll leave with a couple easy things to do that you can start right now and some long-term things that we can be doing as a staff to kind of help our students. So I'll start with what is SEL? Well, CASEL defines SEL as the social emotional learning as a way that children and adults learn to understand and manage emotions, set goals, show empathy for others, establish positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. If you think about that definition, how many ways do you think it would help you inside the classroom if your students had those skills? Why is SEL important to me, you might ask? Well, how about improved behavior? Every teacher knows that before we can even start teaching, one of the things we have to do is have a plan in place to redirect students and keep them on task during our lessons. And there's a lot of ways we do that with all our classroom management techniques that we use. Well, an SEL program is going to really help you across the board. And if you want to know a few of the reasons, just please take a look at this graph. Now, I want you to turn to a neighbor and tell them what you see. And I will say what I see when I look at this. I look and I see that when I compare the current school services, which are in green, to the addition of an SEL program, I can see dramatic increases in student outcomes. And for their skill level, there is a 57 percentage point jump. For academics, there is a 27 percentage point improvement. Both social behavior and emotional distress, students are able to interact with each other and interact with and handle their emotions in a way that benefits them. And you can see a 24 point percentage point increase for those two skills. Their attitudes improve, conduct problems decrease. Right there, think about all the ways that this would actually help you inside your classroom and help your students. If they could regulate their emotions, this is going to help them on their day to day basis. And these are lifelong skills that will help. You want some more information of how it can help your students in the long run. Well, SEL programming can have a positive impact for up to 18 years later on academics, conduct problems, and emotional distress and drug use. So now we know the why we need social emotional learning inside the classroom. So you probably want to know what social emotional learning is. Well, social emotional learning has five core competencies: self awareness, self management, responsible decision making, relationship skills, and social awareness. And these five core competencies are the skills that students need, not just for in school, but for life in general. So when we're teaching students these skills, we're helping them succeed not just with us, but in wherever they go in the future. We're teaching them lifelong skills that will help them be better members of society and be more understanding of each other. So I'm going to quickly, and I will try to make this quick because I could really stay on this for a while. I'm going to just kind of go over the five core competencies and kind of explain what they are. So self awareness is when you're identifying emotions, having an accurate self perception, recognizing your strengths, building self confidence, and self efficacy. Self management is impulse control, stress management, self discipline, self motivation, goal setting, and organizational skills. Social awareness is perspective taking, empathy, appreciating diversity, and respecting others. And relationship skills is the ability to communicate, socially engage, build relationships, work through teamwork, and responsible decision making. That core competency right there is focuses on identifying problems, analyzing situations, solving problems, evaluating, reflecting, and ethical responsibility. So, those 5 core competencies are supported through the classroom, school, and as well as homes and communities. So, how we at in the classrooms can support SEL is through our SEL curriculum and instruction. And the school supports through our school-wide practices and policies. That would be like our PBIS system. And then the homes and communities, that's where the family and community partnership is so important. Now, I could go into all of the different research, and I would be here for a full day training. So, or maybe even a week. So instead, I'm just going to kind of show you what's really stuck out for me for one of the areas that have really fascinated me when it comes to social emotional learning, and that is the growth mindset. A growth mindset is more the ability to look at a situation and then look and take it as an opportunity, while a fixed mindset is is thinks of something maybe in a more negative view. So I'm going to go over just a couple different examples, and you can see when you look at this photo. This is one you'd see in all basically any SEL book when it talks about growth or fixed mindset. When somebody who has a fixed mindset encounters a challenge, they're going to try to avoid it. While somebody with a growth mindset are going to be excited by that challenge, they're going to embrace it and want to challenge themselves because they're not going to be afraid of failing. Um, if there's an obstacle, somebody with a fixed mindset will give up easily, while somebody with a mindset will persevere. It's a matter of looking at a scenario and seeing it for the positive it can be, and developing that mindset to know that it's okay to fail. That's how you learn. If you really get a chance and you want to learn more about growth mindset, I would really suggest you going to UQ. And there is this Dr. Joe Bowler. She's a professor at Stanford, and she's written a few books, and she has a lot of videos if you go to YouTube that focus on building a mathematical mindset, but it actually goes to anything besides math too. It's basically a mindset, not so much um, just for math. And I will say I've used this in my own classroom, and I have seen an improvement in my students' perseverance when it comes to things that frustrate them, and not just in math. I mean, across the board. If you ask one of my second graders, is it okay to get this wrong? You know what they're going to say? They will tell you that it's good to get things wrong because then my brain's still growing. I learn more and my brain grows more from making a mistake than getting something right. And that's because we've had weekly videos where we talk about having a growth mindset, and they'll use the word growth mindset, and we've learned a little bit about how our neurons work and things through these short little 5-minute videos that talk about perseverance and how it helps them get over challenges. And they've seen, and they'll show little short videos of pictures of a brain growing more tendrils because it's making more connections, because as those connections make, when you make a mistake, you actually your brain grows more. And getting into that mindset of using the power of yet is a big step for students, because when instead of saying I can't do this, which is a fixed mindset, they can say I can't do this yet. And that power of yet is so big because that means there's not a roadblock in front of them. They still see potential knowing they can if they keep practicing. And it can really be life changing to develop that power of yet. So now that we know how important SEL can be, you're probably wondering, where are you going to start? Well, how about that little box in the back of your room, in that cabinet that you tucked away, that we just got about 2 months ago? That second step box is actually a research proven SEL program. And we have one for every set of grade partners at the school. So this program is rooted in social emotional learning, and it helps transform the classes into supportive, successful learning environments uniquely equipped to help students thrive. Well, you might want to know, how does it do that? Well, inside that wonderful little box, when you open it, there is a few things that are really going to help you. There are weekly lessons. So every week you can focus on a different social emotional learning journey. So you might one week be focusing on, you know, self-awareness. So you might be focusing on a substandard of, say, empathy. Well, what does empathy look like? So there's whole class lessons, there's discussion cards, so you can bring in a class discussion. There's little plays where students can be different people, and then the group around them can try to say, what that person is feeling or what should be done, and give suggestions and have a real conversation about looking at other people's perspectives. And there's also great ways to resolve problems. So, say if you see that there's a little bit of bullying in your class, well, go to that unit on bullying and teach that week. And it's only going to take you 30 minutes. And there's no real prep work to it because it's just right in there. It's all verbal. So there's nothing you need to print out, there's nothing you need to prep ahead of time. You might want to look it over so you know what you're going to be talking about. But if you don't have time to look it over and something just comes up, you can just pull that book and go along and say, "Hey, I'm doing this with you." Okay, so for the end of this presentation, I want to leave you with a couple of implementation tips outside of the second step curriculum. Some things that you can do with like no prep work, and you can implement, and you might already be implementing it and you don't even know. So the first one is going to be hand out roar tickets. Roar tickets are our school's token economy. These tickets right here are when we catch students being good. But there's a way we need to do this to help students build those social emotional skills. So, first you're going to thank your student. And you're going to acknowledge the rule you saw. Then you're going to make a connection from the rule to the action. So, for example, um, thank you so much, Chad, for picking up that ball and handing it back to Susie. You were being very respectful by giving that student her ball that she was playing with back. And then you would give the ticket, because now you've made a connection from the rule of being respectful to self and others directly to the action that that student did. And that right there is supporting your student in a couple different ways. So if I'm going to kind of refer back to those castle core competencies, I'm going to say that that's relationship skills, because I'm building a relationship with that student because they're seeing that I'm acknowledging their behavior, their positive behavior. It's also responsible decision making because it's reinforcing those positive decisions, those responsible decisions. Instead of taking the ball, running to go play with it, he brought it back. Um, it's being socially aware. That's also in the area of social awareness, because that student paid attention to the the perspectives of those around them, and responded the appropriate way, and you're catching them being good. And then they can use those roar tickets as in the student store. So we want to move it so it's more intrinsic, but in the beginning, it's always easier to get them to have students being recognized for those positive choices, to start internalizing that this is the type of citizen I want to be. Now, what if you see a student breaking a rule? How can you use that in the terms of SEL? Well, first you're going to say, is this a teachable moment? Because I mean, if a student is punching another student, of course you're going to want to separate them, and that time is first to make sure that those both those students are safe. But if this is a teachable moment, this is the perfect time to go and take them back to those roar rules that we had that are posted all over the school, and walk them back and reteach them the rule. Start with the question, what rule did I just see you breaking? And give the student a chance to think about it. If they can't come up with the answer, ask a couple leading questions to try to get them to where that rule is. So they can acknowledge that they know the school's rules. And then ask them what they should be doing, what should they have done in that situation instead. So say I have a student on the playground playing helicopter with a jump rope, and they that is definitely not a rule, because we want to always be safe. That's the A in roar, always be safe. So I'm going to bring that student with me to the roar rule card on the wall and on the playground, and say, okay, what rule did we break? And that student's going to tell me, always, I was not being safe, that I am not being always safe. And I'll say, okay, that's right. Okay, so what should we have done instead? And what the student should say is, I should be jumping rope and not swinging over my head because that's dangerous. And then you would thank them and let them go. That's a reteach moment. There's no citation needed. It's something that reteaches the student, and that's going to be a couple different things. That's right there. It's You're building a relationship because that student knows that you're willing to come and talk to them and not just punish. You're teaching them what's supposed to be. They're going to learn a little bit of self-management. That's that core competency, because they're going to realize, okay, I need to control what I'm doing and realize, is this appropriate or not? And they're going to make responsible decision making for that same thing, because they're going to say, okay, this wasn't responsible because it wasn't safe. Oh, so those are two things that you can do inside and outside of the classroom with no prep. That's just what you have, because you should always have your roar tickets somewhere on you anyway, because you should be giving out at least 10 a day. Now, what else can you do? Well, have mindfulness moments. I will say I use this all the time. So just take a few minutes when you're transitioning to practice some mindfulness. I personally do this every time I transition. So if I'm coming inside, I'm throwing a quick mindfulness up. Go Noodle is your friend. Our district, it has been sponsored by HealthNet. So if you sign up with your district email, you'll actually get a free account. And this right here lets me play a video where the students can do different things. Some are breathing exercises, some are physical exercises. So if you have, say, you see the kids coming from recess and they are super energetic, put on a video that relates to whatever you're teaching, whether it's some math facts that have some, and then they exercises, they do some math facts to warm up. So you're activating that background knowledge, and then do a mindfulness real quick, which is normally only a minute or two. And you can do them that are yoga, that are breathing exercises, that talk about empathy. And so you can directly relate them to any of the core competencies that you need for the moment. So if I'm having some students fight, or argue a lot, I'm going to put that one on empathy on, and we're going to do some breathing exercises about perspectives. And if I have students that are very energetic, I'm going to have them do a quick 2-minute workout one, and then do a quick mindfulness to get them to relax to be able to get ready for the lesson. Yes, I'm losing 3 to 4 minutes of the beginning of my lesson, but that can completely turn around the rest of the lesson. So I'm not sitting there go, sit back down. Oh, we can't go do that. Please stop touching them. Instead, they've used that excess energy and they've breathed and they calm down. And that's teaching them some self regulation strategies that they can use at any point. I'll go up to my students and say, take 3 bear breaths, and they'll do it. Or I need to hear 3 snake hisses. And they know exactly what they're supposed to do. They might give me a look for a second, but I'll do it with them, and they know I'll do it with them, so they're not gonna try they're just gonna do it, and by the end, I'll ask, "Do you feel better?" "Yes." And, I mean, there's a lot more. I have sensory objects in my room that I got on Amazon for 20 bucks, and I got enough for the whole class, and whenever a student gets frustrated, I let them go grab one of those and just squish it because it takes no energy, no attention, it doesn't distract anyone. Because there is a rule, if you ask any student in my class, "Are those toys or tools?" They're gonna say, "Tools." So it's all a matter of whatever makes you feel comfortable to start with, because when it comes down to it, there's so many ways you can teach SEL to your students, and it's going to do nothing but benefit you and benefit them. And overall, you're going to be more relaxed and less stressed, and they're going to be more relaxed and less stressed because everyone is learning different ways to manage their emotions. Well, thank you so much for my short introduction into social emotional learning. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I love answering anything to do with SEL.